scumbags. I have missed saying that. It has been far too long. But we are on the up, baby! Everyone's working super hard to make Sump City Radio better than ever! And I'd be lying if I didn't say a whole bunch of thrilling heroics have been part of our journey. And you know I pulled everybody out to grab her. I cannot wait to hear about
Redacted.
And when I found him again, you know I couldn't resist.
If you want to hear the full ultra-violent account of Becky's adventure, digging me out of the wastes, then tune in next year.
But don't you worry. You know old Becky's got your back. I recorded every second of the action just for you. So, go enjoy time with your crews and your Jews while you can, 'cause shit's about to get crazy. Happy Sanguinala, bitches!
Hello and welcome back, listeners, to Sump City Radio. We're feeling pretty damn festive here for the Sanguinala season, and we've got a little festive treat for you. Okay, so we've got an interview lined up with the one and only Matt from Hive Market Minis, and we're going to discuss the joy of kit bashing, his process, his techniques, his attitude towards kit bashing, and how he just likes to see other people's cool shit. So, he's a man after my own heart, and we really hope that you enjoy us discussing how we cut toy soldiers apart and then put them back together raw. What else have we got lined up for today, Matt?
We also have an amazing interview lined up with our very own Carl Johnston. He's our art director, he's our friend, he is a legend, and he is a joy to behold. And we're going to be discussing all things new releases for Necromonday. We saw the release of pretty much everything for the Aranthian Succession Part 4, and also a load of beautiful plastic models in the way of the hangers on. That's pretty exciting to me, and I'm not going to lie, I've been beaming away at them. But enough about that. Chris, should we get on with the episode?
You're damn right we should. Let's do this shit.
Come on out in the name of Joyous Sanguinala. Come on out with your hands in the air. Listening to and or profligation of propaganda is punishable by death. What me? Now let me put that thing down.
No guilds! No masters!
Sump City Radio.
Jameson, go and get another Voxcaster. This one's absolutely fucked. The fuck's going on, man? I pay good creds for all this shit. Come on, let's just go, mate.
Yeah, I need to go and sort a Sanguinala present out for Becky anyway. She's impossible to buy for. It has to be something special. It has to be something unique, preferably something handmade. I think I know just the guy to ask. Follow me.
Right, let's go, man. Let's go.
Yes, let's just through this door here, bud. There he is, Hive Market Minis, the man himself.
Howdy, boys.
We need to get hold of something special for Becky Boo. And as you're the man of handcrafted, unique Underhive oddities, I figure who better to talk to? It's a pleasure to be speaking to you. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
How's it going, man?
Good. A little earlier over here, but good.
Glad to hear it, man.
Yeah, how's your Christmas preparations going, man?
Very, very hectic. Thankfully, I've got gifts squared away. But no time for anything else right now. How about you guys?
Yeah, steady as she goes. Gonna hopefully go and see the Christmas market tonight. Maybe pick up a couple of gifts from there, but I'm pretty much set. I've been really proactive this year. I'm just looking forward to a nice Christmas dinner, if I'm honest. That's kind of the thing that I'm really excited about.
Hey, look, we're all learning. Get it done early, folks.
I'm in a quite fortuitous position in the sense that I have got 2 Secret Santas this year, and that is the entirety of my Christmas buying. So I am done. I've been done for about 4 weeks now, and I feel a bit kind of lost in the void of Christmas now. Sanguinala hasn't really gripped me that much this year, but that'll change in time. But enough about Christmas. Matt, thank you very much for joining us. As Chris rightly says, this whole episode's all surrounding kit bashing, and we thought, why not get 2 titans of the industry in the same room together, which is obviously Chris under Hive and also yourself, Mr. Matt, or should we say Hive Market Minis, Matt.
We love kit bashing. This is good.
It is good, and I'm really new to this whole kit bash thing. I usually just buy it out of the box and hope for the best, and maybe pop something decent on the base, and that's sort of my experience. So I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. It's something that I'm percolating on. I'm really looking forward to sort of hearing what you guys have to say about it all. But I think let's start at the start, really. So Matt, who the fuck are you?
As mentioned, I'm Hive Market Minis. I have been doing Necromunda and hobby stuff as a big focus. About 4 years with Necromunda, 5 years back in hobby things. I first got into what would now be Old World Warhammer Fantasy Battle briefly about 20 years ago as just a thing to do, and had worked on a big Ogre Kingdoms project, which might come as no surprise. And then kind of dipped out of that for a while because we all go to college, university, or whatnot and have different hobbies. And just prior to COVID, thank you, got kind of back into things, looking at this as a creative outlet. Have been absolutely smitten by Necromunda since. I'd been kind of following the relaunch of the game since that dropped, and then finally took a nibble, and now I can't get away.
Nice.
So you, sorry, this is really surreal because normally when I'm recording with 2 other guys, Matt is overpowered by Chris, and now I'm Chris meat in a Matt sandwich. So it's an unusual experience for me, but a pleasant one, I would like to report to the listeners. Yeah, obviously you've got quite the presence on Instagram, and that's in no small way magnified by the events that you've been running. And I believe that you are about to launch your 3rd one next year. How did that idea come about?
Oh, that's, third one coming up, which we'll be announcing right around the beginning of 2026. That was something where I had been looking at my growing pile of sprues with less choice bits, and then also really just thinking on it, the kind of classical, I have a painting background. I went to school for painting. Kind of classical notion of are you better served putting all of your time into one precious piece, or making 20, 30, 40 works and then seeing what comes from that experience? And generally, if you're making a lot of work, you're going to make multiple better pieces than if you really focus on one. So the idea for me was to rally around this idea of just play with kit bashing, play with bits, take a dive into that, and really
see what you can make, see what you can develop when you're not worried about the end result so much. You're not focused on this has to be my gang leader. I want this to be perfect. But rather just whip up some models, and hopefully in that process, you will discover combinations or concepts that you hadn't really hit on before. That might be exciting. And, you don't have to really worry about messing up those precious Forge World kits you've been squirreling away for all this time.
Yeah,
I was going to say, you don't have to tell me about the Forge World kits. I totted my little pile up the other day, and it wasn't so little.
I don't feel so good myself these days.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that. Now, obviously, Matt was very kind in introducing us the way he did. And I think one of the biggest myths around kit bashing is that it's some kind of sacred art form or skill set. And essentially, what it comes down to is putting the toys together wrong, scrumpling up the instructions, throwing them in the bin, and literally gluing bits together that aren't really supposed to go together. And fair enough, 9 times out of 10, that's going to look like you dropped glue in your bits box. But that 10th time, something's going to click, something's going to work, an arm is going to fall in the right place, or you're going to discover canoptic wraith legs, or you're going to find reaver heads, or whatever it is, that magical little part, or the pain engine elbows and wrist mounts. It's going to be something, and it's going to click to something else, and all of a sudden that's going to lead you on a whole other journey. So building kind of a community event around allowing people to discover that process is such a cool idea. And I must be honest, I've never entered one yet. And unfortunately, the second one came around the time that I left Instagram. So I am going to have to get on this next year's event and get involved. And I'm guilty of going, right, this is my Archaeotech with Spider Rig. This is my, and I'm not a perfectionist because I don't think you ever achieve perfection. And usually what happens is I'll finish one, be very pleased with it, but automatically be thinking, I could improve that for the next time. I'm terrible with that. But I do sometimes avoid attacking the smaller things, the less glamorous things. It is something I've been doing more of in my later hobby. And I've been trying just a weapon swap, or just, like Matt says, working on a base or something like that, and finding different ways to accentuate a miniature rather than building it from scratch from 100 different kits or using styrene or green stuff. But I think there's a joy in the play of kitbash that I really means something to me creatively. So I 100% get behind the psychology of that. And I think that's a really great point you make. And coming from an art background and understanding that the more marks you make on a piece of paper, or the more time you commit to putting words on a page or writing notes on a sheet of music paper. I'm assuming that has a word. I'm not a musician, so I don't know what that would be. Magic music paper. That's what we'll go with. It's that muscle that, like with anything, it's just understanding that doing more of something will make you better at something. And I think that's a real removal of any kind of stress or fear or anxiety around any artistic endeavor or creative process.
Well, and I think you hit on a lot of really good points there. Is like, to me, perfectionism has its place in what we do. That's something that like I am definitely guilty of like pursuing that. And it's a balance of when I use driving for perfection, when I use driving for just play, and creative process and all that. And, something that, talking about like the myth around kit bashing, about it being like this big grand endeavor, which it can be, but so much to me of like where that magic starts is, just making simple head or arm swaps on models. Like no putty involved, no sculpting work involved, but looking at what is out there. And I will say, I think like the biggest skill is just that people can build is to just start looking through what exists, whether that's through Games Workshop, whether that's through other stuff you can print, whether that's through other makers, but really just starting to learn what's out there and getting excited about like what bits you can start pulling into your own projects. But just making head and hand swaps, that changes a model, that recontextualizes a model, that makes it yours. And that, I think, is an easy way to kind of scratch that itch, but also like an easy place to catch the bug for wanting to do more involved stuff. But yeah, it doesn't have to be this like hugely complicated endeavor where you're chopping off a specific leg from one model to work, onto a different torso with the original leg attached. I've done stuff like that, but it doesn't have to start there. It doesn't have to stay there. And I will also add something I've found fascinating is like if we look at hobby as like there's gaming, obviously, there's painting, obviously, and there's modeling, and there are more aspects to it. But with those three, I do always think it's for me very interesting and when folks who I consider to be excellent painters will look at kit bashes and go, wow, I could never do that. Or like, wow, I don't know how you did that. Where I'm looking at the skill set they have. And to me, that's like the monolithic achievement of like, wow, I don't understand how much time it takes to get to that. So, point being is like we all, I think, gravitate towards different sub interests within our hobbies. And I think there's a validity to all of those. But hopefully, like through Scumathon, through just talking about kit bashing, through people just seeing models they're excited about, we can kind of make that more accessible.
Absolutely. So, like, before I started with SCR and before I kind of started on this journey, I mean, I entered Scumathon too. I was a part of it, and it was my first time really, truly kit bashing because I'm still massively a novice at the kit bash side of the hobby. But I mean, I was bitten by that bug, and it really kind of like it knocked the rust off of me a bit. Well, I say a bit, it really kind of shook up my world, if I'm honest with you, because I was going through a bit of a hobby dry spell at the time. I was kind of feeling a bit disenfranchised from the hobby a little bit. I just felt that there was like loads of kits out there and loads of things I wanted to do, but I didn't have like the ability to commit to something. And then through one medium or another, I found out about Scumathon and ended up joining the Discord. And then literally on the Friday, it was the Friday night I started. I literally just looked at what kits I had on my in my pile of shame and went, right, okay, let's make something. And that's funnily enough, that's how Underlord Mateus was born. So I kit bashed using the base model was just a regular Hive Scum. I used parts from Eisenhorn, so the old Finecast kit. So that's his head and his shoulders and his cape. Oh. I even did some green stuff work as well. So I made a little red beanie. I made a beard using the Valbjorn tutorial. And I managed to get silver in most storied and a commended entry in best in show. Bearing in mind that I'd never used green stuff properly because before it was like post attack, and then I'd never like kit bashed properly before. So to be able to jump in, and I mean for a weekend of work, because it was literally a weekend of work. I was sat there, grafting away. I made the base for it. I made like the nice little stand, and it's all painted up now, and it's actually one of my favorite parts or pieces of my Warhammer collection. So it's really interesting to sort of see how impactful it can be as a hobby medium for me, the layman who hasn't really explored that part of the hobby. Speaking to you guys who obviously live and breathe it, you know a lot more about it, and you've probably forgotten more about it than I currently know. So it's really interesting to sort of see how that journey kind of takes place and how people are able to explore what little machinations are kind of ruminating in the back of their head. So I think for me, I'm looking forward to Scumathon 3. I'm really looking forward to that. It would be great for Chris and I to both enter it in one way, shape, or form. I'm looking forward to seeing what Chris comes out with. Yeah, I would like to see. I would like to see what Chris comes out with because Chris definitely is an impressive builder to say the least. So
I would agree.
Thank you very much both, and I consider the gauntlet thrown. So I will be there with bells on, as the saying goes. One thing I'd like to touch on that you spoke about there was the way you describe, obviously there's levels of every endeavor within the hobby in the way that we play. It can be competitive, it can be narrative, it can be casual, it can be drop in and out, it can be campaign. And all of those play styles and approaches are valid. You could be painting to a tabletop standard, 3-color tournament minimum. You could be going for a semi-pro competition standard painting. And it doesn't matter where you are within that, it's the enjoyment that you gain from that. And I think that's the same with kit bashing. And it's like you say, the smallest thing can make a miniature unique and personal to you. These are my miniatures. No, it may be that like eventually somebody will use the same combination of parts, but they might just do it slightly differently. So your miniature will always be your miniature. There's a level of kind of personalization and ownership that you gain over a miniature when you do that, I think. By the way, that's personally how I feel.
Absolutely the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to touch it because I know when painters sometimes challenge each other or challenge themselves, what they'll do is they will restrict the palette they're allowed to use in order and say, I'm trying to achieve a certain kind of look. I'm only going to use these colors and I won't use any others. Like I'll use black, white, and say 3 colors. And what they end up discovering is that the qualities of the paint, the tones, the values, that they can adjust all of those and find levels within that simplicity, like they unlock a level of complexity that they like hitherto had not appreciated or understood. I think it's so easy to pick up any color you can think of, any you can imagine from all of the different companies and all of the different ranges, that like discovering that you can alter the values and the tones and the shades and the hue so massively and like I say, unlock that complexity. I made kind of a promise to myself when I started kit bashing that I would only use GW parts and like allow myself to sculpt and I allow myself to use styrene like to scratch build. Kit bashing now, it's even more enormous than it has ever been due to the proliferation of 3D prints, 3D sculpts, the availability of hundreds of different companies now who all produce their own range of cool miniatures. And the reason I put that restriction on myself was to make me think outside of the box. So of course, I could think, oh, I need an arm for this, or I need to create some kind of torso for this, or I need to figure out how to recreate the side of this vehicle to mirror that side that like doesn't exist in the kit itself. But I knew that at any point I could speak to somebody who did 3D sculpting, or I could even like learn to do it at a rudimentary level myself, or I could look in all of the other 100 different ranges out there, or I could, find a way of doing it that meant that I removed that part of the process that I really enjoy. And it's that kind of that reverse engineering, that looking at a shape or a part that is for something else, but thinking, I'm going to repurpose that. And there's a level of discovery and joy within that that goes beyond what it becomes in the end. That there's something pleasurable in that process. There's something exciting about seeing a piece on a sprue and thinking that looks like something completely different. And then showing that work when you figured that out and somebody going, oh my God, yeah, that makes perfect sense now that you've pointed that out. But being the first person to see that, to notice that that works. And that's why I think it's common that we see a lot of repetition in kit bashing, because somebody will unlock potential in a piece and that will then start someone else's journey with that piece. And it just becomes this kind of circuitous wheel of creativity. And to be any part of that process, not just for yourself and your own kind of satisfaction of going, oh, wow, I've just figured out that this can be used for this, but to see somebody else go, oh, yes, that can be used for that. I'm going to use it for that, but also I can use it for this. There's a real, there's a real process and joy within that I don't really get from anything else in the hobby.
About the kit bashing segment of the community, if I had to pick one thing to kind of hone in on, is I feel like there's almost no competitive spirit, but rather a real communal spirit, that like what we all like is seeing cool shit and celebrating each other's cool work. And so, yeah, exactly what you're saying is like when someone kind of unlocks an idea, a concept, a way of doing things, like It's not a jealousy thing. It's not a like, I don't know, ownership thing. It's like, yes, seeing that kind of grow is always exciting. And I think people are gracious and like attributing, obviously, if there's some direct inspiration. But like with Roxville, when he first kind of did his wham bots, the like what Castellan's modification is like a lot of people really love those. A lot of people, myself included, have built something jumping off of that concept. I asked him about it if that was okay and all that. And obviously, when I share that, like I'm gonna, friends, like, hey, I was really inspired by this. That's something where we all kind of celebrate. Yeah, another one. What I was thinking about when you were saying that is like the Dark Mechanicum Legion Imperialis set. When that dropped, I think I picked up that on launch day, and like a number of us all kind of were like, "Hey, here you can use these things." And now we're seeing more of that proliferate. But to touch on, this is what I was excited to kind of say is like, I think where you and I, Chris, really agree on this is that there's a joy in the treasure hunting aspect, in the searching aspect, and then there's the joy in really recontextualizing it. Like for me, that's my
Yeah.
favorite part is when I can pull something um and like port it over in a way that maybe it's not recognized, because like my personal style, I guess I would say, is to try to go for a certain minimalism where it looks like this is how the kit was designed. This is how this is built to look. I want things to be more simple than not, in most cases. And that's where like that recontextualization is so fun, so gratifying, and so powerful. Is if you're doing your homework and you're bringing the right things over, it's a surprise where it came from. It's a surprise what you kind of assembled from that. And yeah, for me, that's like what I'm always aiming for versus I really love and respect a lot of like the maximalist work out there where it's like, how many cables can you jam onto this? How many bits can you get onto this? I love seeing that as well. Which gets back to what I was saying is initially it's just like we're just a community that loves seeing cool shit. I don't know if there's any bad blood really in kit bashing land. Not to throw other sub communities under the bus or anything, but like that the thing. I don't think that's a thing we have,
No,
and that
definitely not.
to me that's one of the best aspects.
No, 100%. It seems that way. I mean, to be honest, to a certain extent, the wider Necromunda community shares that same luxury. There are one or two,
Absolutely.
who have their very devout opinions on Corpse Grinder cults, and they have their very devout opinions on Spirers. But outside of that, everybody seems to get along just nice. So it's interesting. I want to touch on something that you spoke about there, though, Matt, because you started loosely depicting your creative process of the minimalist. So trying to make it or design a kit bash based on the concept or idea that you could have theoretically once painted up. Mistake this for an official GW product or official product of some description. Maybe from the very bottom up, we could maybe explore the idea of somebody brand new getting into kit bashing for the first time, who's maybe, they're used to cutting bits of sprue and they're used to building models and whatnot. What is that formula, or what is that kind of like that cheat sheet that how would you explain to somebody who's brand new, and how would you guide them through their, like, try and, bring the ideation, or what things that they could do to create their first kit bash? Like, how would you explain that process, or what process do you have maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and Chris, I'd love to hear your stance on this as well. For me, the jumping off point that I recommend to folks is like I was saying earlier, is just what two kits can you blend together? Like what are torsos you like that could go with some different heads that you're excited about that will make something new? Because then working with an extremely limited palette, where yeah, Chris, I'm with you on that. I generally just stick, not generally, I stick to GW stuff or I sculpt it myself. Just as a personal preference. I don't think people need to do that. I fully support however people want to explore this. But yeah, is I think finding two kits that mesh together. Like I will tell you right now, I'm working on a new Caudar gang. And for the Juves, for the Bone Pickers, I'm really just trying to blend together the Dark Oath troopers and then the Jackals, the World Eater Jackals, and keep that reasonably simple, where it's like I would really like to bring the jackal heads over because it's going to start giving this post-apocalyptic, like horror marauder kind of vibe to these bodies that I really like. And that's a way of making something that's totally mine, totally unique to me without spending a ton of money to get into it or like being overwhelmed by the possibilities. So I think that's always a really good place to start. For me, the models that I put the most time and effort and really kind of like chase that perfection are generally like gang leaders. And those are things where my process is in some ways the opposite, where I will look at a lot of models. I will go through like online catalogs, GW's website. I will like really dig through Instagram to find individual bits that I'm really excited about that maybe work for the loadout I'm aiming for, and kind of use, the whole range as my palette, I guess, for that. But for both, it just really starts to me with like doing your research, with really looking through what you're excited about. Because I think with any facet of the hobby, like enthusiasm is going to get you 80% of the way there. And when you're excited about a project, you want to work on that project. So I'm just looking for bits or models or kits that really like spark that excitement from me, that have me wanting to work on a project versus saying like, well, I think, you know, space marine body with this other thing could be cool, but I'm not really interested in doing it. In that way, again, like if people are excited about what they're working with and working on, you're naturally going to put in like your best effort, and you're hopefully finding ways to kind of reiterate little risks and little ways of approaching those models. I mean, I don't think it has to be particularly complex. I think just saying like, hey, I would really like the Gene Stealer minor bodies, the Gene Stealer neophyte suits with some Orlock heads. There's artwork that depicts that. I would really like to make those. That's enough. Like those are two kits you can blend together. You're going to make something that's really unique to you. And hopefully you'll feel really, like Chris is saying, really gratified to have those done.
I just got a really weird fimbly feeling from the Southern Hemisphere. I heard an Australian voice say something to the effect of, right, guys, gang idea. And something happened there, but
A 6'7" man god has felt a disturbance in the force.
he's literally Ozzy Aranthius, isn't he?
Our boy. Less rotting flesh, at least.
No, thanks for that, Matt. It's a really interesting way of sort of thinking it through. Like, I mean, you're absolutely right. The neophyte body plus Orlock heads, like, it is a really simple kitbash, but it works, and obviously there's artwork depicting it. I mean, it would actually be, Chris, I don't think we've actually ever really spoke about this in depth, have we? Like, what's your take on that then? What's your take on like the sort of the baby steps into kit bashing?
Hi, future Chris here. What I mean to say at the beginning of this next segment is all you need to kit bash is a good sharp knife. Get lots of blades. You are going to blunt them. You can use them for scraping, for cutting, for carving, but keep replacing your blades. Keep dull blades for certain jobs if you're just hacking through some plastic. But if you want to get nice fine scrapes or you're moving lines or moving details, you're going to need a good knife. Get yourself a hobby saw. These don't have to be expensive. You can literally get blades that replace your craft blades and put them in your craft knife handle. Some glue, both super glue and plastic cement, and just lots of bits to practice on. You can't go wrong with some miniature files or sanding sticks. That's what I use. I've got like 3 sanding sticks with 6 different sides so that I can smooth things off. And you don't need more than that. You just need to have a sense of play, an idea of what you want to achieve, and go for it. Now I'm going to leave you with past Chris, who's going to wax lyrically and metaphysically about the process of kit bashing. I do apologize. See you later. I have to agree with every point that Matt made there. I don't have to. I actually do. I think personally, I didn't go, oh, kit bashing looks like a thing I could do. I'll do that. The first ever thing was, it was necessity. So the first thing I ever converted or kitbashed. I never really understood the discrepancy or the definition of those two different terms entirely. I think one would suggest more of an involved process, but I think converting or kitbashing is an interchangeable term. I think necessity was the first thing. So I was building my Orlocks and I needed weapons that they didn't have on the sprue. It was as simple as that. So I found bits that filled that need. So it's a case of cut and shut, and not much more complicated than that. The thing that launched me into actually kit bashing something quite ambitious was when the Van Saar were revealed in the Gang War book when their book came out. The original Gang War, the original little thing. You had the arachnorig described and you had rules for it, but there was no image. And all of a sudden I was off. Like there was this freedom to just create whatever I saw in my head. And in my head, I had a very kind of clear, defined image. And then not knowing anything particularly about the ranges of 40k or the fantasy stuff, I literally just started scrolling through the internet and looking for different miniatures that were already out there and seeing if there was anything I could put together. And no one said I couldn't, basically. And that freed me to it. I wasn't like, oh, this is going to be really difficult, or this is going to be really hard to make all of this work. So I was just freely cutting into miniatures that I probably couldn't afford a replacement of at the time in order to achieve a shape. But that lack of understanding, it was liberating. And I've tried to kind of hold that so that now if I buy a miniature or if I get given a miniature or whatever, however I've come across something, just try and find that place again. It's like a level of, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. We'll make a mistake and we'll work with it. And I have cut miniatures that I really shouldn't have cut and I've messed it up. I have ruined miniatures trying things out. But more often than not, that hasn't been the case. And it's just going, it doesn't matter. We're just experimenting. We'll find out. Sorry, I'm finding it really hard to formulate this because it's not something I really put into words. It's just a process in my head.
Yeah.
I think kit bashing for me, it's not, I want to do this, so therefore there is this step and this step and this step and this formula. It's just a discovery. And I don't mean that to sound profound or prosaic. It's not. It is play in its simplest form. It's sat with the bucket of Lego and just putting the bits together. And something will happen. I'm not suggesting that you go out and buy two $50, 28 quid kits, put them up, you know what I mean, with abandon, and then be mad at me because you've just wasted $100 or 60 quid or whatever.
You can blame me, it's fine.
Like, but like Matt said, you're going to end up with a load of bits that you haven't used. That's going to happen. Even if you build all of your kits as factory settings, build all your kits out, you're going to end up with a load of bits. Play with those. See what you can do. And you'll be surprised. You will surprise yourself at what you can create just through that. Just do it. Literally just play. It removes that kind of, I need to achieve something or I need to get to a destination. It is literally that playing in the sandpit, that sticking the random bits of Lego together without the instructions. That's where things will happen.
No, brilliant.
Sorry, that was really convoluted and metaphysical, and I didn't mean it to be, but yeah, it is an unusual thing to describe. When at its core, like I said at the beginning, we stick toys together wrong. That's literally all you're doing. And sometimes it looks fantastic, and we get to show that off to other people and then look at what other people have done wrong. Go, wow, you did that wrong so well.
Well, and like I think, build on what you're saying, right? Is that this is in no way to take away from painting, from our painting friends, because I think, again, it's a skill set I have an immense amount of respect for. And I think the upper tier of that is the most impressive work in the hobby generally. But I think like the 3 color standard, if we look at the most basic tabletop paint jobs, is in some ways it's a glorified coloring book. It's like we're just putting contrast paint here on these shoulder pads where it belongs. And so I think in that sense, as you're building that skill up, you're really working through, coloring book land. But I think like kit bashing, I find it to be when you're in that kind of basic learning phase, I think it is a facet of the hobby that encourages and invites the most creativity, because you really are, just like you're saying, like digging into the pile of Legos and just putting things together. So I do think that there's a element of that even beginning process that's so creatively liberating, and I think that's where people kind of get hooked on it, is that it is like, oh, I really can do whatever I want. And then you have to paint them, and then you get to the hard part. But in the building part, it's just there's a lot of freedom in that. One thing you kind of reminded me in talking of that is I also, especially with, gang leaders and with champions and with brutes and that kind of thing, hangers on, these more individual models, I do really, in my head, like to build idea of who this character is. Who this character is in my own setting, in my own fluff. And it's stuff that I don't ever need to share, but once I kind of have an idea of who this character is, it becomes easier to find bits that fit what that character would have or what they would be doing, or like that tells that story a bit more, what's happened to them. And I think that helps with that creative decision making. But again, like it's not something that I need to share. It's fun when people do. I always love when I like roll up against an opponent at an event, somebody I've never met, and they're giving me like the background of all of their models. I appreciate that. I enjoy that. And I have that same thing going on my end, but it's not something that I feel as inclined to necessarily share. But like what so much of that went into the building of the models, and then also like even what I'm equipping them with and all that stuff. Because, Necromunda, we talked about this briefly a while ago, is not inherently competitive. So you can make the narrative fun choice across the board. And that's one of my obviously favorite parts of our game. I will also say I don't think exactly to the level of a kink, but I do feel crazy every time I slice into a Forge World model. It's never lost the like, should I really be doing this? Am I being sick? That's the quote. I will say on that front too, Chris, with something you were saying is like, I think before I cut into something, I'm not going to be able to get another copy of either it's too expensive, it's from a like character kit, it's Forge World, it's out of print, whatever that is. I always think to myself like, hey, there's no universe in which my enthusiasm can't fix this. If I do something wrong in assembly, I like snip this weird whatever it is. If it's not like a face, good luck with that. But there's nothing that's going to stop me from being able to fix this if it's the right thing and what I need. And I think that extends to painting as well. It's like the care we put into it, the enthusiasm we have for these things. Like you're always going to be able to find a way to make it work. And I say that in hopes to like, I don't know, help encourage people to be less nervous or less apprehensive about, giving it a shot, whatever that shot may be.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think having the ability to feel comfortable in making that jump is something that held me back painting wise for quite a while. I mean, my only similes here are painting, so I'm more on the paint side than I am the kitbasher side. I'm hoping to change that balance quite drastically over the new year. But I feel for me, like hearing you say that is kind of quite reaffirming to me, because I have the same attitude towards painting now as you do have towards kitbashing. Like I have so on my desk, I have it's the Age of Sigmar Orc Mega Boss, the one with a massive axe. Not kit bashed. It's just there. It's primed black and it has green skin, as an orc would. But for me, like, I don't feel I'm ready to commit properly to the painting side of things. Like I've kind of like I've I've repainted the skin like twice or three times now because I'm not happy with it. And I can get into the model. That's not a problem, but that's not the point. And I think to your point surrounding like the scarcity of model or the availability of a model compared to your ability to rectify mistakes should you make it during your creative process. Like I I sing that song. I agree with what you're saying, because from a painting like somebody, somebody who's kind of trying to bridge this gap between painting and kit bashing to sort of make it relevant in my mind as to my life experiences so far. Like, this orc will probably get done at some point over the next year or two when I'm comfortable painting its skin, in the same breath as I will always like to try and challenge myself to do something better in my modeling hobby and try and sort of draw more joy out of that. Because I think that's what it all boils down to. Like, we're all doing this to either have mental reprieve or to enjoy a hobby or to be a part of a community and sort of like be shoulder to shoulder with some of our friends. And that's something that really kind of like, I don't want to say that I've got a kink, but that's what gets me going. Like, the whole idea that everybody's kind of enjoying their own journey and doing their own thing, and they've got their own motives for enjoying their own thing. So I think, to the point you made there surrounding a few of the things that you've done in the past and a few of the sort of the models that you've done, I do want to bring up your Rust Storm Raiders, because these guys have a bit of a reputation, don't they, Matt?
They've been around the globe. I can comfortably say that at this point.
Literally been around the globe. So they were at SumpCon, they were at CoriousCon. Where else have they been?
Brought them to Necromacho Entertainment's event down in Florida this past April, which was really fun. I ran them at Adepticon 2 years ago. Yeah, they've seen some event action, partially because it is nice having high toughness models when playing strangers, so you're less likely to get tabled.
So there's some method in the madness. I love it. Tell me about them. And for those of our listeners who don't know what we're talking about here, paint the picture for us, explain the models. We'd love to know more about them.
Oh, I did mention this earlier. My first miniature purchase was the Ogre Kingdoms Battalion box in, I think, 2009 or 10. It was earlier than that. But whenever that dropped, I was like, oh, these look fun. This looks like a fun model. I like that they're bigger. For me, learning how to paint, like this looks like a fun thing to do. And I did first kind of unlock my interest in kit bashing through those. This is back when you could order individual metal parts directly from Games Workshop at affordable prices.
Bring it back, GW, please, for the love of God.
But yeah, I was really smitten by the man-eaters units, which were just mercenaries, ogre mercenaries that had embedded in whatever culture they were hired into. And EW had made a few representing, the Empire and RB and a couple. And I was like, well, I want to make more of these. I want to make these. And so that's what really first got me into kit bashing. But then, unfortunately, those, through like a weird eviction situation, ended up getting thrown out a few years later. And so all of my original models, some Rhinox riders, all this stuff had gotten thrown out. And I was very disheartened by that. And that's actually probably what got me out of the hobby for a while, is just not wanting to get back into that. But lesson for everybody, this is why you don't live in auto body shops with 24 of your friends. Don't do that. And so then, yeah, when I was getting back into the hobby, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I didn't really touch that initially. I'm a lover of the Lock and a Goliath, and so I'd kind of worked on those gangs first, but then had been toying with the idea of like, well, it would be fun to do Ogres Necromunda. It would be fun to work on that, and had wanted to do that. And actually, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Cody, who I met at Nova, who had some beautifully painted and assembled slave ogrins. And I think that seeing those in person was really the push I needed to be like, yes, these are great models. This is what I want to do. So from that point on, yeah, I had spent a lot of time working on, I wouldn't call them slave ogrins, but ash waste ogrins, and building from a lot of the Age of Sigmar models as the base. So like my gang leader is based off of the Tyrant model. I'd done some sculpting to get some more 40K era Necromunda appropriate bits on there. I've worked through, like all of the GW official kits for 40K with the Bullgrins, and then the Necromunda one, I've just like 7 boxes of those, and I need more. And then kind of backfilled working through a lot of the Age of Sigmar Ogres and Ogrins. When they released the Gorgers set for Warcry, I couldn't have been happier, and I flipped a lot of those into like these Ash Waste no armor Ogrins. With, again, when we talk about like what is my internal lore of this, it's like these were because they're larger, these are like workers that were vat bred to be in the mines, in the wastes, and so that's why they're like this. And then they all had either the Lovo slave heads or some of the Armiger 40k heads to like represent, like, yes, they weren't going to be living anything but like these slave lives out in the wastes, and therefore like they don't need mouths and they don't need to eat, and they're not going to be breathing the same way that a normal model would. And so really just kind of backfilling through all of the old Ogren stuff to have a pretty large gang. I think I'm up to like 12, 13, 14 painted models for the Ogrins, and then I've got like 15 in process or just gray. It's getting to kind of build out fun ideas, different loadouts. And then that was like, lastly, I'll say that was kind of bolstered when they dropped to the Venator rules, because then you could go beyond the handful of weapons from the Slave Ogrins list to really explore like different loadouts, different poses. Like now I can make more bounty hunter mercenary manifestations of this. Just different ways of playing with base models and a concept that I really love.
That's awesome. Like, obviously, when you were over at SumpCon 4, we saw them there. And I mean, you had a group of people around you all sort of focusing in on specifically the Tyrant model. He's your boss, isn't he? He's your overboss.
Yes. Yeah.
So everybody was just fascinated by this titanic model, and obviously comparatively to Necromunda models. I mean, Necromunda models are 24 to 32 usually. Even if you're looking at an Ambot, it's not that tall. I think the tallest natural model we've got is probably the Coalescence, perhaps. It's quite a tall model. But then you've got your Gargant, your boss, who's just kind of above the walls, and we're kind of like, well, I've definitely got line of sight.
Isolator base modeled for disadvantage. Yeah, our buddy Tom, the One Punch Orlock, took hefty advantage of how large they were in our match against each other to great success.
Big shout out to One Punch Orlock.
Yeah, no, it's been interesting. Folks who haven't seen these online or Instagram, seeing them for the first time, because it's like, you did what now? This where? Versus, I think my buddies, at least, who are a little more exposed to what I've been building on that.
Nice.
Yeah, modeled for disadvantage it's a lifestyle, folks. Go for it.
Absolutely amazing. So I think just on a real quick note there, by the way, Matt, like, which one is it? I'm going to tell you the name of it, because then we can actually then you know which one I'm talking about. He is so Behemoth with like I think it's like the guitar strings.
Yes, yeah.
Oh man, honestly, he's bloody gorgeous. It has served as some inspiration for myself, because I mean, like, I'm fearful to kind of step outside of like the comfort zone of like the 28, 32, 40 mil type size for Necromunda, but then I see your stuff and I'm like, oh come on, like there's a whole new world of possibilities.
Well, and for me, that's like so much of the fun is, again, just bringing things in that don't necessarily have a native home in the flavors 1M is finding a way to incorporate those models as like a fun challenge, or like what Chris was saying, as like almost a limited palette exercise, as far as like, well, how can I make like these large breeds designed for another game? Like, how can we bend them in both lore and modeling?
Yeah.
That model, that's gotten the most love on Instagram of anything I've posted.
I think it's just that cowl.
Glad it resonated with people.
Oh, 100%. Like, it absolutely has. I think it's like the cowl that it's got, like this sort of like the sack head, the sack hood.
Oh, the Chaos Knight head that I bought a Chaos Knight kit to get, because I am a psycho. Sorry, I am a freak.
It's a class model, man. But no, I mean, if at all possible, if you're able to maybe send 1 or 2 photos over of everything that you've got painted together, that would be a photo and a half. That would be sick.
I could do that this sometime this week, I'm sure.
That would be awesome because I'm like looking through the Instagram, like I don't think I've seen a photo of them all together.
Also need to just start posting the painted finished ones, which I'm very bad at.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody.
Okay. So all this talk of kit bashing has me thinking towards a special little something that we've been promoting on our social media platforms, and that is a little competition towards the celebration of Sanguinala, or Christmas as we call it here on Old Terra. And we launched Christmas Kit Bash. It was actually my good friend Relentless Matt, or Underlord Matthias, who suggested this after talking with your good self in Berlin. And I thought it was a fantastic idea. So we've asked the community to put together a Christmas kit bash. So a kit bash of anything, any single miniature they wanted. No restrictions on 3D parts, third-party bits, or sculpted bits, or kind of scratch built from styrene. Restriction beyond it's a miniature for Necromunda, and it has some kind of Christmas theme, no matter how abstract or on the nose that is. So whether that's just an Orlok with a Christmas hat, or it's one of the ghosts of Christmas past, present, or future presented in a Necromunda fashion. So we would be honored if you would take a look at the entries from this year and cast your expert eye across them and pick out a winner so that we can send those lovely people a prize for the end of the year. How would you feel about that?
I would feel pretty good about that.
That's good.
And we're really, really happy with the response this year. And I think we're probably going to do it again next year, Chris. What do you think?
I'd say why not? I'm feeling very Christmassy and very generous, so let's do it.
Awesome. Well, on that note, Hive Market Minis, aka Matt, aka legend of the community, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you from myself personally for joining us today.
Yeah. Hey, very happy to be here. It's great to chat with both of you again after, Chris getting to see you at SumpCon, Matt getting to see you at CoriusCon. And I'm sure we'll see each other again sooner than later.
I'm sure we will as well. I think it's going to be a very short time frame until next we meet. But on that note, Matt, for those listeners who haven't seen your wonderful work in the wild as of yet, where can they find you?
I am Hive Market Minis on Instagram. That is the bulk of where I am active. And I will have some Scumathon 26 details, hopefully in the first few days of January on there. And you can get to the Discord from that page. And then I believe you will also be potentially reading about it on Goonhammer, our favorite Necromunda website source for Necromunda news and details. So yes, keep your eyes peeled for that. And we're hoping to, I will just tell you now, hoping to do the event early February this year. So details.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. Well, Matt, thank you so much for your time.
Well, just to echo Matt's sentiments, absolute pleasure to talk to you again. Yeah, thank you so much for coming along to chat to us. And yeah, mind how you go. And Sump City Radio will proudly promote and share everything as the phone rolls around, and the whole process and the results.
Awesome. Right. Anyway, so we've kind of lost track of why we came here, Chris. Matt, have you got like any vox casting equipment, like at all? Because some fuckwit decided to spill fucking goon juice all over the bastard place.
I do have some goon juice free equipment if you'd care to take a look.
And I'd better pick out something for Becky. So while you're digging around there, I'm going to have a look for her.
Thank you so much. Right. Let's go and grab it. Tell us how many creds you want, and I'll chuck you in an envelope or some shit. Right, Chris, let's go, brother.
Hi everyone, it's Konstantin here, even though you probably know me better as Corius. I met with the STR boys recently and talked all things terrain. Make sure you tune into January's episode to hear all about it. Right, I'd better get back to work. This hive won't build itself. Stay scummy.
Right, that's everything we need for the Voxcast, and that's Becky's gift sorted. I'm not sure we needed 1,000 Grox sausage rolls, but whatever floats your boat. Right. Hang on, mate. Who's been drawing cocks all over the wall?
That one looks like mine. What the fuck?
Jesus, it's got the mole and everything.
Mate, honestly, like, hang on. 2 seconds, it's going right here. Oh, Chris, gear. Look at this.
I mean, like, it's disgraceful, but it's also pretty impressive, the realism.
Carl's got a big Johnson. What the fuck? Mate, that's a fucking tag and a half.
There. Look. Aye, look at him, bloke. With the hood. And the spray can. Him, there. Get him.
Oh, I do like these.
I thought I'd take the opportunity to decorate up your shack a bit.
Yeah, it's always cocks.
Well, I accidentally got onto the man's personal Wi-Fi, and that was mainly cocks, so I felt a bit inspired.
Look, right? We all compare ourselves, It's just normal, right? Anyway, brother, how are you doing? How are you keeping?
A bit sickly as usual, but mostly alive. And that's all you can ask for sometimes, to be honest. So I thought I'd take the time to come over and say hello.
Well, as long as the important bits are alive, Carl, that's all that matters to me, brother.
Why don't you come on and talk? Or why don't we have a chat?
That's very nice of you. Thank you. Just one more cough. Quick. 1 second.
Put the can down. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen of the Underhive, if you haven't already gathered our guest, that is our good friend of Sump City Radio and internet sensation, Carl Johnston, aka Underhive Art, in the house.
Thank you.
Well, phallic graffiti aside, it's really nice to see you. And Matt and I figured who better to discuss the latest Necromunda releases and reveals with than your good self. So are you up for that?
Oh, yes. Always my pleasure to spend time with my 2 favorite peoples from the Underhive. So, yeah, let's do this.
So I think before we get into any of the models, we'll have a little chat about the Aranthian Succession Spire of Primus book, the 4th in the Aranthian Succession series. I think it's one that you may want to discover in a future episode with us, and we're going to do a deep dive when we've digested it. I think for the main content takeaways that I've got, it all boils down to one, and it's one that I think Chris and I were discussing it whilst we were walking around the Sanguinala markets, but I don't know about you, Carl, but I'm sure you've seen the same, which is the Spire Hunter, the Stenian Spire Hunter. That profile is very similar to the Stenian profile that Lady Hera has in her hunting rig. And it's also noted to model the Stenian Spire Hunter using the Lady Hera spire suit. So that means that there's not going to be a unique model for this, and that means that there is a lot of opportunity for kit bashing. And that has really tickled me pickle. It's touched a lot of parts of my pie, I'll tell you that for nothing.
I really like the Stenian rig, and I'm definitely going to use it as an excuse to create a new and secure. Yeah, I'm going to definitely pick one up because I think it's a great mini and turn it into one like a leader from my Van Sargan. But I don't know. I would love to play this campaign all the way through just to kind of test it out. But realistically, it's not something I want to get around to anytime soon. I've never been shy in expressing how the Aranthian Succession, beyond being nice stories, has never really held like a massive amount of appeal for me as a player. I do like some of the rules that you can tear from it. And I think like the fact that we've got the Grim Jarl, the bounty hunter with the sniper rifle, fantastic, great mini, can be utilized in most games. But a lot of these things are going to be tied specifically to this campaign again. And beyond buying the miniatures to repurpose for my own gangs in some way, like in a way that I can play more widespread across different campaigns and skirmish games and events, then I'm less kind of inclined to rush out and get the book or rush out and get the miniatures. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it allows for people to go, actually, I'm going to give this a miss. Or, you know, if you're all into it and it's all about the story and it's all about playing that story, then more power to your elbow. If you want to go grab this stuff, it's there. But yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a case of I'm more interested in the plastic. If there's a way of bringing that Steinian pattern suit into my regular incursion gang, then I'll definitely do that. And I'll build one just for shits and giggles. But other than that, I'm not really all over this as maybe some people are. I wouldn't mind painting an Aussie up, but you will be getting massively kit bashed if I do.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I think with the way the rules structure well for Necromunda, it's quite easy to draw inspiration from all of the separate campaigns and just have them impart on your own games. So I don't think it's necessarily a loss as such if you're not playing them out of the book. I think they're in the book there for people that require and want structure. They are just like a diverse tool set for other people that want to have more freeform games or want to be more creative with their own arbitration to, like you said, draw in those bits and pieces. So I don't think that's a bad thing. It kind of let everyone have the best of both. That's pretty cool in that regard. But yeah, as from a monthly standpoint, I'm definitely excited to go back to the spires and see what I can chop up and spit out.
So basically, this kind of it pans out into tombs, which is the court of Ozostium or court of Ozzy, because I can't be chewed with all those syllables. And then there's just the dramatis personae that are all part of that as well. So obviously you've got Ozostium Aranthus, the Divine Prince. You've got his character Servitor, which, by the way, is an awful, tiny, little finicky thing, and I hate it with an absolute passion. Even more so than those Tyramites from the Genestealer part of the Malstrain for Secundus. And then you've got Aethera, Blade of the Matriarch. You've got the Palanite Enforcer Champions as well. They're all part of the Court of Ozostium, alongside the Palanite Justicar delegation. Now, that is a delegation force. It's not actually part of the Palanite proper, but obviously you can play them as is. There's rules for them as well. And then you've got the Dramatis Personae, which are all sort of surrounding the other side of things, the Helmar dynasty. So you've got Cal Jericho and Scabs, and you've got the Prophet of the Redemption, obviously, and you've got Lady Hera. So there's you've got two sides to that story, rate rock and roll. Some of them are, they're all now available, obviously. And it's just kind of it'll be interesting to see what people do or how people kind of approach this, because this is you can curate your own box game effectively now by getting the 4 tomes or getting the full Arantian Succession and then actually playing it out. But again, will people be incentivized to do so? I mean, I haven't had a full look into the scenarios as of yet. Obviously, that's going to be a part of the deep dive that we do in a future episode. But for the here and now, I'm interested and I'm curious and I'm really looking forward to sort of opening up the lore side of things. But again, just for our listeners, obviously, we don't want to jump straight on the lore bandwagon here and now. I think it's going to be a better idea for us to hang fire and actually have a proper educated conversation surrounding the lore. Is there anything that you guys just want to add, or are you just happy to go on to the next thing?
No, I think, like you say, I need to spend a little bit more time with it. But yeah, until we've had the time to tear it apart, I don't think there's much to go on. But we could maybe do the whole thing and look at all 4 books and the story going all the way through and dismantle it bit by bit from there.
Oh, sounds good. Right. Well, if that's the case, let us jump on to the Palanite Justicars. So, models. Now, let's call a spade a spade. Every model's a Necromunda model, isn't it, Carl?
I believe so. Some cunt said that once.
I thought it was a very wise track, but, these Palanite Justicars, when they were teased and shown, I don't know, there was something about them I didn't quite like. And I feel it was something to do with the fact that they kind of look a bit Prussian in their sort of, in their outfit. They look a bit more, well, I tell you what, think of the Trench Crusade release that came out, the Plastic Trench Crusade release. I'm just getting the same vibes. It looks like GW have kind of had a run-in with just Trench Crusade's Prussians box and kind of made it their own. Yeah, it's quite an interesting stylistic choice. However, there is one specific model in this kit that I absolutely adore. 3 guesses as to which one it is.
It's the Executioner with the big axe, isn't it?
It's the fucking Executioner with the big fuck off axe. Look at him, man. His fucking mask is sick. His blade is unreal. The way that the blade's actually
tape it off. It's in the seal. It's in the Planet Justicar seal, which we now know to be like the drop site logo that was shown in Bastions of Law. Okay. Yeah, we saw that in the map there in the bottom corner, and we're like, "Ooh, what is this symbol? What can it mean?" But now we know it's these guys.
Need a lot more medieval coded, so I can see why, like with your first earlier complaint, why that like model pops to you as like your favorite, because you think he fits very, very straightforwardly into the established aesthetics that we see often in Warhammer. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's a good thing. I think he looks pretty sick, to be fair.
100%.
I'm going to buy them, cut all of the feet off and stick them on the edge.
Yeah, but not boots.
So you're stealing them for their boots. Love it.
Literally going to, cut their feet off and use them for my chair.
And they're nice. I actually really like them. I think the mixed aesthetics is interesting. I like the mixture of like judge attire with the like Prussian military uniforms and then the medieval things. It is quite a lot going on to like pick 3 strong aesthetics like that and then like blend them up into a paste and then reform them into miniatures was a strong choice, but it makes them unique and interesting in that respect. And yeah, I don't fully think that they shout French Crusade that much, so much so that, there's just already a huge overlap between French Crusade and Warhammer, and specifically the more grimy, weird bits that we get to see in the likes of Necromunda.
So for me, it's more, I don't buy these as kind of super powerful. They don't look any more intimidating than any other gang. I don't think they're shit by any means. They're really well designed and really well sculpted. They just aesthetically don't float my boat. And I think that's fine. Maybe just something as simple as a head swap. I might find some use for some of them.
Potentially, yeah.
It's surprising how different just like paint job changes can make a model look, let alone, just even a single piece off of them, like you said, a head swap. So it's definitely worth seeing how they fare in the community's hands, because I'm sure we'll see loads of stuff within moments of them arriving. So yeah, if they're not doing it for you straight away, it's always worth just holding back on a purchase and seeing, what the Zeitgeist comes up with. You never get better than a bit of crowdfunded research in that respect. We'll see thousands of kit bashes coming up.
I quite like the cowl, like the over the shoulder and the cowl bit. I think that's the dominant part of the silhouette. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the mauls. I don't know if it's the man catcher weapon. But you're absolutely right. Somebody will do something with this miniature that will make it just incredible.
Yeah, there's a few bits that bother me. I'd actually prefer if they were a bit daintier on the weapon side of it, with how regal and like uniform they look in their like authoritative state. Whereas instead they've gone quite like brutalist with their weaponry, and that doesn't gel well for me with how they looked. I get the idea symbolically with their lore, but yeah, on the miniature side of things, that doesn't win out for me. I'd have much preferred if their melee weapons were a little bit more toned back, and even their guns. To be honest, I'm not a big fan of the big straps that they've got on them that are supposed to, I suppose, look a little bit like medieval torture devices and medieval like restraints. In that, those are big iron bands with spikes. I might find myself taking a knife to those and just taking the tips off of all of the little spikes and just seeing if that reduces a little bit of the silhouette, a little bit of the weight from the miniatures.
I see that. So my knee-jerk reaction when I saw them at the previews, I couldn't quite place that. I couldn't quite figure out, because at the time we saw the word Palanite and we were like, cool, it's something new to add in the Palanites. But then we're like, well, actually, hang on. Yes, they are Palanite in the sense of they are part of the Palanites. However, these guys manage and police the Uphivers. So now we know that to be canon. Now we know that to be the case. I'm a little bit more forgiving of some of the stylistic choices, because they are meant to be a bit cleaner. They are meant to be a bit more sort of like a bit more foreboding in their presence.
That's off the guy who painted the gold motif on the back of the purple here, because that's flawless.
So looking at the 2 servo skulls surrounding the magistrate, having the judge wigs on them, and also having the magistrate have a cross between a magistrate's wig, a Prussian hat, a samurai's mask, stylistically doesn't really feel like a comfortable fit. And again, it's exactly as you say. I feel it would look a lot better with a head swap and maybe even complete omission of the servo skulls from the model. I don't like the feel of them, to be honest with you.
outside of that, I feel it's a great kit and it's going to be interesting. And I think it's going to be a good kit bashers, a good kit bashers one for bodies and legs, and boots for those Escher players who care to have knee highs for their Escher ladies. So yeah, it'll be good to see how the community responds by painting and and modeling and seeing what we can get done with them.
Do you remember the Inquisitor release with the pox, Gala pox? Just only remember the Imperial Guard Star Police dudes that came in that. I can't remember what the fuck they're called. To me, these guys give a little bit more of that energy where they've got more very specific, polished aesthetic. So yeah, I don't mind them being a little bit off from the rest of the range.
It's a plastic kit. It's a plastic kit for quite a niche little aspect of the entire gear, and that's a really positive sign. Very happy for that to be happening, and I'm sure there's a million different kit bash opportunities within there. I've got no interest in the actual justifiers themselves, but I imagine I'll find some uses for definite. I was a bit sarcastic with the old "I'm taking the boots for my Escher," but yeah, I'm definitely find some use for some.
The more unique bits that come into the game, the more options it opens up. So it is a really lovely thing to see them supporting the game with these really detailed plastic kits with these really strange and unique aesthetics. It gives us a lot to play with.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And I think there's going to be more to be said on the plastic kit release in a little while, because we're now going to move straight on to the Ironhead squats. So the Ironhead squat Charter Masters and Drill Masters. This was a kit that kind of caught me off guard. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't expecting it. I don't think anybody was really expecting it. However, what a kit. I mean, I'm personally not a squat player. I know, Chris, you are, and a friend of the channel, Simon Parr, Gobbo Minis. Really, really great, squat gangs there. And I feel that options-wise with these guys, I mean, they look really, really cool. I'm purely going on aesthetics here, by the way, lads. I have no skin in the game when it comes to understanding what the squats are all about or anything like that. I would love to, because being blasted off the table by a fucking strength 9 mining laser has haunted my memories ever since.
God, let it go. Jesus.
You infiltrated 6 inches behind me, behind a wall. I am never going to let that go.
Didn't have a mining laser with me in that game. You're conflating and you're trying to represent me in a bad light and don't appreciate it. I infiltrate behind you with my Charter Master, and he just had 2 bolt pistols and
a tickling feather.
I really like the inclusion of a female head here for squat players. I think that's fantastic, although that'll go in the bin because I put ball bearings in my squats. I like the fact that you changed up the armor on the smaller ones, so like the chest armor is slightly different, so it'll give me some variety, a little bit of pose variation in there. But again, the heads will be gone. The Exomaster weaponry, I'm not massively sold on. I'm guessing the thing that the guy's got on his shoulder is the multi-melter. I could be wrong.
So that's the Exomaster with the heavy melter. And so that's I think we're falling into the territory here of the Saturnine shoulder pads. Just look at how it's posed. So for our audio listeners, the Exomaster with the heavy melter, it effectively is like an upside down triangle, but curved off. And so it's very top heavy, and it kind of slims down to the waistline and then comes out as an hourglass figure in its stature. And it's a very, very heavy armor set on the shoulder area and on the back. And the way that it's posed in the reference imagery that we have here, it makes it kind of look like the heavy melter is actually a part of that apparatus on his shoulders, where in actual fact it's just a tiny little stubby arm like poking out with the gun. And on the other side, you've got a teeny it literally just looks like a glove. I agree with you, Chris. They're just a little bit too stubby, aren't they? They're just a bit too small.
So I really like the derpy nature of the Ironheads. That is the aesthetic that I love, the fact it's atom pulp, that it's really retro-futuristic. And it shows that it's separate from all the other kind of tech on Necromunda. And I quite like the big, derpy, bulky exosuits. But yeah, I'm just not massive on these, to be honest. I like the lamp on the guy at the bottom with the drill.
Yeah.
I like his lamp on the side there. I think that's pretty cool. Like I say, I love the chest plates on the smaller guys. I'm really excited to play around with those. I don't like the auto veers.
One thing that's I think is quite cool about these though, and I'd like to have a look at the kit properly to see, is it looks to me like the way that the tracks articulate to the body, that it's actually a 2-part arm system and that you can actually stand them up.
So
That's something I'd really, if you could do that, if you can actually stand them up so they've got like little feet that then they can plop back down onto like their treads so they can like motor around, but then they can also become a little bit more nimble, like kind of a bit like the like spider bots from Ghost in the Shell. So that's something that caught my eye. The design, that's purely me spitballing when I saw the design first time. I hadn't seen them close up in person to see it.
So-
usable.
unfortunately, the arms where the treads are, so basically these are a tripod. So it's got one back wheel, so one little back wheel at the back, but then it's basically got like 2 forearms with treads on, and it's a locked L shape. So when you're building the kit, I mean, just as a quick sort of building aside, those arms with the treads on are horrific to place on the actual body of the little robot. It's like the connector is a little bit too wide for the receiver. You have to properly force them on. But looking at it stomach up, so I'm looking at it from if I was lying face up on the base there, it gives me vibes of, do you know, Carl, you'll know this one, Borderlands. What's that little yellow
Claptrap from Borderlands.
Claptrap?
Yeah. The central silhouette with the little single monocle. I agree. It's got some fairly good Claptrap energy. Like, yeah, I don't hate them personally. I like all of the little squat bots. I like the squat bots more than I like a lot. Like, I like the exosuits. Like, I think the exosuits need to have big mechanical arms, like Drill Man. Even though I don't like the fact that the drill is like a huge butt plug ice cream cone and not like an actual like thin paper drill. I still prefer the scale of that. I think it fits the suit scale more than, like Chris pointed out, the guy just with his little stubby glove arms holding his multi-melter out. But yeah, they are, I think, a bit like you said, Matt, earlier. I don't have as much skin in the game when it comes to squats. They are still miniatures that I collect, but they're not certainly like a prime favorite of mine. So I'll probably naturally be a bit more dismissive of them. But yeah, there's some things aesthetically that bother me, and then there's other things that I absolutely love. I think weapons, if I dislike most, the shooty bang bang weapons, like, all the melee weapons actually are really cool. Specifically, like the lady with the axe and the power fist. The power fist is great. It really reminds me of a couple of the, I'm trying to think what the old school miniatures are. There's one of the old school metal spires that has the power fists that have these kind of articulated fingers in a very similar style. It reminds me of that a lot.
That's fair enough. Well, I think that just about sums up the Ironheads, the squats that have come out. Overall, lovely. But I think there's just a few design and stylistic choices that personally, well, from what, by the sounds of things, all three of us have kind of aligned on and gone,
Yeah, there always can be. Like with stuff of this quality, I think it's important to have some critique because, it's really easy just to be like, wow, it's amazing. Because, realistically, all the stuff they bring out is of a very high quality. They have a very talented staff. But at the same time, because it is such a premium item, and it's good to critique and actually look a little bit more deeply of what you could change in that. And that's half the fun, isn't it? When you're making miniatures, is just to be like, well, this is mine now, so I'm going to chop it up and change it, regardless of how your opinion will vary to somebody else's.
Exactly. No, it is interesting to critique them. And on the line of critique and on the line of sort of interesting developments within the Warhammer community, I have a story for you guys, and that's all tying into the next part of our discussion, which is the weapons and upgrades sprues for the Power Knight Enforcers. Okay? Now, this was a false start release. There was an issue on the front of the box, which was that there was a weapon that was not represented in plastic in the box itself, and a cease and destroy order was issued to all third-party stores, and all mainline stores had to also do a cease and destroy or a return. I can't remember which. Now, as a part of this Necromunda release, we do have a full swathe of cool new products, but also the re-release of the weapons and upgrades sprue for the Enforcers. Now, not really much more can be said about this than what's already been said on the internet, because let's face it, a lot of these sprues got into people's hands. A lot of the boxes did get sold or found in a dumpster somewhere, or found on eBay for £19. A single sprue which supposedly came from another box of some description and then was bought and sent to a slightly balding gentleman called Matt. But we don't talk.
Scallion.
What a rapscallion he is. Imagine using some of the weapons for his Paladin enforcers before they were legal. Anyway, so the sprues themselves, there's 2 sprues, 88 upgrades all in total. You've got a whole swathe of new heads, shoulders, not knees and toes, otherwise that would just be silly. But you've got a load of lovely weapons on there. Magnicals, autogun, flamers, shock batons, web guns. Everybody loves a web gun. Concussion carbines, sniper rifles, autoguns, so auto pistols rather. But my standout is the power knives. So what are you guys thinking about the weapons upgrades? So obviously we've seen them before, but like now that we can actually talk about them because they're, in the wild.
I always like to see the weapon upgrades because it's just nice to have the bits. Legitimately, it's always good for each side to have their more expansive armories. But when I look at them a lot of the time, I'm just like, so where could that go? So it's really nice to see a sniper rifle like that. That would be very easy to pin down the contacts to give that sniper rifle over to most other people. And it's fairly clean of aesthetic. It looks very similar to most Imperial sniper rifles. So I like that. It's the same with the auto gun, heavy machine gun style auto gun. That screams a good multi-purpose weapon. And sometimes it's the little detail, like there's the manacle arms. One of the first things I saw for the manacle arms was I was just like, oh, I really want to cut one of those up and make him look like he's got a karambit, which I know is completely irrelevant to every bit in the kit. But, I think it's nice to sometimes just see what you can kind of make up from bits and pieces like that. And with this kit, you get a huge number of arms. So it's going to help reposing and things like that, massive amount with the enforcers, which they do struggle slightly off the vanilla kits because, well, you have to fit a huge amount of options onto quite a small kit. It repeats itself. Yeah, it gives them a lot of legs, not literally legs, but you know what I mean. So that's really nice to see.
Yeah. The only thing I really want is the web launchers, so I can turn it into a grapnel launcher, because I think I want it really cool. It looks like the web bit's actually separate. I've not seen the kit in person, but I've judging by the illustrations. Just like a bit of cool harpoon launcher out of that. Already got I think they had the sniper in another kit, didn't they? Because I've definitely got a couple and used one before. Auto gun is pretty sick, to be fair. The rest of it's fairly useless to me on account of not running enforcers. And I've never been one for shock batons or stabs or anything like that. I don't use them for my Bansar. They just don't really appeal to me. I understand it makes sense and they look cool. It's a solid weapons upgrade kit. It's definitely nice to see them continue to round out the armories, like Carl says, because you're either finding something that fits and kitbashing or converting.
Definitely, yeah.
How was it to use, seeing as though you're the only one of us who's actually used the kit?
My usage of the kit was quite minimal, to be blunt. It was mainly the power knife and also the sniper rifle, because it is very, very similar to the regular sniper that you get in the enforcer box for the champion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, absolutely delighted, to be fair. I mean, I think it just gives that stylistic choice, doesn't it, really? That's the upshot here. And for me, using power within my enforcer gang, like, power's a really, really strong mechanic. So having the option to sort of bring that in using the shock staves and the power mauls and the power knives. So it's nice to have the options there for both the Power Knight Enforcers proper and then also the subjugators as well, having the option to change out the shields to the assault shields as opposed to the bigger assault shield. So yeah, nice little kit. I think that pretty much rounds out my thoughts and feelings on it. Is there anything that you guys want to
No.
No. I mean, yeah, you can't really say much about it, can you?
Awesome. So we mentioned it before. Plastic kits and the future of plastic kits within Necromunda specifically. And I feel that our next point of discussion, or next points of discussion, are really going to open this topic up and that is specifically surrounding Ozostium Aranthus, the Divine Prince. Now, this was the first kit that I built when I got my. So I got all of the kits that came out, and I found this kit was quite an interesting one to build. So first and foremost, I'll open it up to you guys. What are your thoughts and feelings on Zons? We're going to call him Ozzy because I can't say that many syllables in such a succinct way. So, how do you guys feel about Ozzy aesthetically? Like, what about the wonderful little cherub of joy? Like, let's have a chat. What do you think?
I mean, if I can go first.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Gorgeous mini. It's a gorgeous sculpt. It's not what I expected at all from reading the description of him in the last book. I don't know. I expected something really sleek sci-fi. Something that wasn't like anything we'd seen. So I was like it was described as like this shiny white armor that was almost alien to the people looking at it. This doesn't look particularly alien to me. Looks like a cross between some kind of blood angel champion or the Emperor's Tarot.
Yeah.
It looks like a card out one of those. I'm not saying it isn't gorgeous. It definitely is more regal, pompous and ostentatious than I expected, though. I expected almost, I'm trying to think of an actual example, like sleek, plasticated steel, so it looks like Stormtrooper almost, but more cyberpunky, more, I'm trying to think of a solid example of what I'm trying to describe. Like iRobot almost, like really kind of futuristic and sleek. And it's not. It's extremely ornate and full of filigree and gemstones, and it completely goes away from everything I expected. And that's on my expectation from the written text, I think. But it's still a phenomenal looking mini, don't get us wrong. I don't like his other head, though. I think he looks like Eddie from Iron Man.
I do very much agree, to be honest. From what I read and then what I saw, it really did give me a bit of cognitive dissonance. And yeah, it's not to say I don't like the miniature. It literally, just to reinforce what you said there, I think it is just, I felt that, and obviously when you're reading anything, you build up your own internal storytelling. But for the fact that we both had very similar expectations versus reality, I feel like maybe that is something that they maybe missed the trick on there slightly. And I was expecting something with a little bit more futuristic, organic looking robotics and not the stereotypical ornate cyberware that you see from the Imperium. But yeah, I don't hate it. He's fairly imposing. I liked the exposed bits of organic body. It gives that good body horror vibe. And I think there's a lot of potential with the miniature to strip away bits and pieces and accentuate that body horror. Or, if you really hate that kind of thing, go the opposite way. It wouldn't be hard either to cover it up. So yeah, it's cool in that regard. I'm not sure about his little shoulder indicators.
Oh no. Oh, Carl. I can't see any other now. They are literally indicators, aren't they?
So they just have to flash so that his little entourage know which way he's going to go.
Okay, listeners, if anyone picks this kit up and manages to put working indicator LEDs in those shoulders, right? Show us a video, tag us on Instagram, put it on the Discord, and you'll get a secret special prize from Matty G. I'll tell you what, that would be hilarious.
Yeah, let's send that dude a t-shirt if he does that shit.
Yes. Yeah, there we go. Right. Whoever does that gets a free t-shirt on us. There we go. So, my view on this, right? Oh, God. So, I wanted to build this guy straight away. I thought purely looking at his form, how he stands, the stance, like that power stance, the blade tip, pacing down. It's a really imposing statured model. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely sick. Now, one of the things that I find quite interesting is on the GW website, they've completely omitted the maskless nature of the model. So the mask. So basically, for our audio listeners, we've got Ozzy who's got a death mask on, very reminiscent of old Egyptian times. Old Egyptian times. My goodness me, that was a great depiction, wasn't it?
You've got a Stormcast Eternal head.
Yeah, pretty much. but this is a bit different, okay? So the death mask actually operates like a mask, as in you can take it off. Like you could actually leave it as because it's perfectly featured on the inside of the mask, so you can actually place it like back on the model. Obviously, you're going to lose it within seconds, so I just glued mine on. But I don't know. I like the armored variant. I don't like the other version. Just doesn't do it for me. Like, I love body horror and all that.
Sorry to interrupt. Now you've just said that the mask actually comes away. Looking at his hands, does the mask fit into his hand then? So he's just taking his mask off.
I don't know, but that would be sick.
Yeah, initially when you said it, I was like, oh, that'd be cool. A bit like his face ring, you can put the helmet on the hip. You could do that with his mask, but his helmet's like, hang on a second. No, that hand pose is screaming out to have that mask just kind of in there. And yeah, you've got that really good body horror look then, where like you'd just be taking off the mask and like giving you a bit of a dead eye there with his rotted form.
I might have to get another one just to do that, because that's a really sick idea.
Great dual diorama with another character model from Necromunda of him just like being like, behold.
I mean, you could go on further and actually start like chipping away at the mask as if he's just been shot, and have that as like that's a really cool. I'm going to do that actually. I think that's going to be fucking sick. So back to the model itself. So I loved it. I thought building it as a plastic model as opposed to a resin model was a blessing in disguise. I both love and hate resin at the same time. With it being a character piece in plastic, it felt different. There was a different process that you go through, because a lot of what you see on the model is like several parts. It felt a bit strange. So for example, the cape, 3 different parts, didn't really make sense. It could have been one, like legitimately could have been one. The shoulder cowl type idea, the lampshade, if you will, that houses the indicators, that's 4 separate parts, and over the shoulders. So building it was a bit strange and surreal, and there's like little gaps and whatnot. So it goes together nicely, but I feel if it was cast in resin, it would probably been about 3 or 4 bits. That's my honest sort of viewpoint.
You do multiple undercuts in different directions in resin, can't you? Because of the nature of how the molds work. Being silicate and frozen, you can't do that in plastic. So unfortunately, sometimes they have to cut bits off into very esoteric shapes to get those multi-dimensional shapes. And yeah, I guess his cloak, looking at it, the way that there's like a piece of pillows on the left side forward against the rest of the cloak swaying away. Yeah, that's not going to translate well in plastic, unfortunately. I don't know. Maybe that was something they always expected, or maybe this was the case that, most of the miniatures are resin from the line. How we don't really know the ins and outs of at what point GW have like decided, screw it, we're going to go full plastic on all this.
So what about the little death cherub then?
He's pretty cool, I think. I love the fact that he's a cherubim and a caryatid kind of like amalgamated into one little persona.
His official name is the caryatid servitor. So it's kind of a mix between a caryatid and a servitor at the same time. However, what a disgusting model to build. It was...
Why?
Oh, God, it was awful. Those wings are tiny. So unfortunately, the wings were so finicky and fiddly to put together. The body was like 4 different pieces. Even to the skull cluster that it's kind of carrying with it, the servo skull cluster that it's carrying alongside it, that was like 5 different pieces, and it just felt egregious. It felt too much for such a small model. It just felt a bit too much.
It's good to hear that, to be honest, because you hear from the community fairly regularly from certain individuals that they struggle with some of the kits.
He's a tricky little guy. Chris, what are your thoughts on this wonderful joy of cherub delight?
I always love the weird little greebly things that kind of accompany stuff. I'm not massively put off by the fact that it's difficult to build. Kits can be really fiddly sometimes, I get it, but that wouldn't put me off if I really liked it. I'll get this guy just to paint him. I think I might kitbash him a little bit and see if I can't make him look a bit more like what I expected. But to be honest, it's a beautiful mini, both included the powerful stance, the regal nature of it, the imposing nature of it. It's stunning. So even though I'll probably never use Aussie in a game, I'd definitely like to build it and paint it, just kind of for the enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, funky little bat baby. cool in my books.
Definitely. All of the weird shit. That's one of the great things about Necromunda, that it brings in so much of the more weird shit in 40k that you don't get to see in the battle game.
I agree. I think for when you see it in the lineup, or when you see it with the other sort of hangers on and NPCs and all that sort of stuff that you have lit about Necromunda, it does fit. It fits that weird, quirky aesthetic. Now, to kind of move on to a slightly different sort of approach here, with Ozzy and the little death cherub, as he's going to be known, with those guys being plastic, this begs the question, is this the future of the side lineup, so the non-gang specific side lineup of Necromunda models? Now, in my hands right now, I have the Ammojack and Dome Runner, the old resin one, which is now no longer available on the GW website. And these have been replaced with the new Ammojack and Dome Runner, alongside, obviously, the rest of the Underhive hangers-on. So in this kit, you receive a Mediskull, a Slopper, an Ammojack, a Hive Watcher, a Rogue Doc, and a Dome Runner. All of these kits are fucking beautiful. Like, there's no getting away from that whatsoever. But I suppose my first questions around all of this is plastic going to be the way forward for the new Necromunda models?
I think we've seen a lot more esoteric models coming out from GW. You know, we've seen kill team boxes of like some really unusual things recently, you know, so I would love to say that is the case. I don't think we have the insight into GW's financials and how these things sell. You know, it might just be that they're flowing this to see how well this sells and it pushes through. Or it might be, like you said, the fact that we're seeing other models being discontinued and all this entire release, even the most esoteric of miniatures coming out in plastic.
It's a difficult one. We've seen all of these in resin, except that is it the Hive Lookout?
That's the new one.
Yeah. By the way, the new Dome Runner might be one of my favourite models this year. Oh, fucking cool. Ammojack's pretty sick as well. I'm not as keen on this slopper as I was on the last one, but yeah, plastic hangers on. Yeah, it's insanely reassuring. But yeah, whether this is a peek into how Necromunda moves forward, or if it's just a one-off for whatever reason. Like you say, you can never really call what's going on behind closed doors. And how many times have people said, this is the end to Necromunda, there's not going to be any more. And then, oh, this means such and such. We can speculate as much as we want, God knows, until it becomes apparent through their actions, as opposed to Dave works with such and such from the factory and they do this and they do that.
Well, like, I wouldn't have called a multi-part hangers-on plastic kit before I'd have called a Delac plastic vehicle, you know? So,
for our Australian listeners, by the way, that is the Delacroix that we are speaking about there, the Delacroix vehicles. But anyway, no, I agree. I think I didn't see this coming either. And I think it was like that's really nice, because this wasn't a part of the release, was it? It was like a completely separate thing a week later.
Wait, they are included in this book, aren't they? All of these are in the book. Yeah, cool. But everything else, everything in this release has been plastic. Yeah, it does make you wonder which way they are going. And with the cessation of certain lines on the Forge World website, like the old Dawn Runner, yeah, it does make you wonder. But I think beyond kind of water cooler speculation, it's almost moot. But yeah, that Dawn Runner's sick. I imagine everybody's going to find a way to put them in a Cawdor gang or an Orlock gang, or a replace prefix and replace it with a gang of choice.
Absolutely. I think, to go back to a point that you made earlier as well, Chris, around the Slopper, I prefer the new Slopper to the old Slopper. The old Slopper looked a lot like Crew from Jack and Daxter 2 or Jack 2 on the PS2, if anybody remembers that. He just kind of looked far too rotund to be a starving person on Necromunda.
The last guy set certainly was a beastly side. Maybe it was all tumor and not fat.
Isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. So I think to focus on the Hive Watcher then for a moment, this new model.
Yep.
It's so weird. Like,
my least favorite. Sorry.
I'm in between. I like him because he's fucking grotesque. And I like him because it's giving me like Hellraiser. Do you remember that scene in? I'm sure it's Hellraiser, where the guy sat there and he's using his blood to use the ink and all that sort of stuff, like to write out all of the sins of his past and all that. He's kind of giving us vibes of that, but then also he's very Admech because he doesn't have legs. He's got little tentacles, like little cable tentacles.
Quite confusing. Like, and I don't mean confusing as in I don't understand what's happening. I mean, like a bit like earlier when we were talking about the Justicas and people who were saying how there's a lot going on stylistic choices. I find that with the idea here of like where he fits within the idea of cyborgs in the Imperium, Servitors, Mechanicus, actual humans. Like, yeah, I don't get like exactly what, because he's got free will because he's just rocking up the Lapis mill. But then he's got like the like kind of scribe rig that you see on some of the full servitors, little helper drones. And then he's got like almost military style implants, but then also no legs. I don't know. For me, it's very confusing to me, a bit over the top. I think I'd probably like take him apart and use all of those different bits, make some really cool models, and the individual bits themselves are exciting as fuck. But together, yeah, it's like a bit too much for me personally. So yeah, my list will vary there, obviously.
100%.
Yeah, I don't understand why he's got 2 bionic eyes and a fucking telescope.
I will also mention I am kind of enjoying this diversity that we're getting in the newer ranges of GW products, because obviously we've now got an Ammo Jill as opposed to an Ammo Jack, and that works quite nicely. She's quite stoic stud, and I'm liking a massive power hammer and the robotic arm that's wielding it. That's quite a cool model. The Rogue Doc's giving me vibes of Fabius Bile, not because of the appendage over his shoulder, because he's kind of like, he just looks like really sort of, I don't know, like he's not a doctor. He's not a doctor.
I really liked the kind of like minimalist cool cyberpunk exteriorish kind of one that we got before in resin. But I also really love the much more 40k Grim Darkon that they've done this time around here. And with this guy, yeah, I think he's very fitting.
Was that the female Rogue Doc you mentioned there, Carl? Yeah, I love that model. I've still got it to build. She's absolutely gorgeous.
She's great. They went with such a juxtaposition there between the two. I think that's really nice. I think it is a good kit bashing resource just as much as they are very obviously archetypes meant for that one single pose miniature.
I agree. I think like when it comes to the kit overall, there's been some interesting stylistic choices, but then there's also been some confusing ones, obviously, as we've mentioned with Hive Watcher. The Dome Runner, as you rightly mentioned, Chris, I wouldn't be surprised if that is one of the top 3 in the next Golden Demon for Necromunda.
I was about to say, yeah, he's going to be, he's going to be
100%. Because
yeah,
it's the diorama potential, isn't it? That's the upshot. It's the diorama potential of where he could be stood, what he could be scheming, why he's there. You know what I mean?
Sick ripods, yeah.
We've talked about like our feelings on the different aesthetic choices, obviously the potential of the different kits. It's phenomenal. And I think it's great that we can all come away going, well, no, I really like this one. No, I'm not so keen on it. But the fact that GW have obviously turned around to their designers, sculptors, and just said, go fucking crazy. And that's where we get like some amazing hits, some subjective misses. Again, it's all subjective. But the fact that these are allowed to be made, you know what I mean, and then be made in plastic, it's really encouraging for the future of the game, and really speaks volumes to the support that they continue to throw at this game. So hopefully we'll be talking about it for a long time to come. I don't think there's a kit that if somebody said, oh, here's this to play with, I wouldn't find something to do with it. And as far as that, you know, I'd say that's a win in anyone's book, really.
Oh, very much so.
100%. So on that note, gentlemen, I think that'll just about wrap us up, wouldn't it, Chris?
Yeah, we should probably let Carl get back to spraying cocks at walls.
Yeah, I've got lots more penises to draw. I thought I'd do a few portraits and penises, you know.
Portraits and penises.
Well, if you could do it off of my buildings, please, because I pay a lot of credits to keep these places inconspicuous.
100%, I will not be doing that.
You dick. Right. Much love, Carl, and off you fuck.
Catch you soon, buddy. Peace.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Well, that just about wraps up this month's episode, guys. Thank you so much for everyone who's joined us, both listening and also who we've interviewed this month. Big shout out to Matt, Hive Market Minis. Thank you again, brother. It was an absolute pleasure from both Chris and I. We loved every second of it. And also to Carl, Carl Johnston, under Hive Art. Thank you so much, genuinely. And we look forward to everything to come in 2026. Chris, is there anything else you want to add to that?
I'd like to add a special little thank you to Becky for sending us a Christmas announcement. And again, I'd just like to extend my own personal thanks to Matt and Carl for being on the show. They're both great guys and they're very insightful. So, I think this about wraps us up for the year. We've got so much coming next year. Obviously, we've got our chat with Corius in January and a few other special unannounced guests. We're really looking forward to that, and we're just really looking forward to the next 12 months. So stick around. It's been emotional, and it's going to get pretty crazy.
100%. Now, but I found a little cachet in the back of my storage bay, right? Now, back in the day, Terrans used to drink this stuff called port. Really, really nice. I had a bottle of this like 2 years ago. Do you fancy coming back and we'll just finish off the bottle?
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Let's get leathered. Right, we'll see you all next year with lots more Necromunda and the announcement of our 2 competitions winners. See you later.
Catch you later, guys. Next year.